Welcome back to the Allison Knows podcast. You know, I love doing deep dives on fascinating people.
Yeah.
And today we're going to do one on Kamala Harris.
Ooh, that's a great one. A lot to unpack there.
She's
She's been in the headlines a lot.
She has been.
Oh, for years.
And so I thought this would be a really interesting deep dive, and you all wanted it.
Yes, they did. A lot of requests for this one.
So many requests for Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
All right, so to do this deep dive, we have excerpts from 3 books
3 books about Harris.
about Kamala Harris.
Oh.
One of them is actually written by Kamala Harris.
Right.
And we also have a whole bunch of news articles and even some social media posts to kind of round things out.
Yeah, getting that full picture from all these different perspectives.
I like it.
Yeah.
Okay. So Kamala Harris, obviously she's the vice president now.
Right.
But where did it all begin? Like, what were the early influences that kind of shaped her into the person she is today?
Well, her mom, Shyamala Gopalan,
Yeah.
she plays a huge role here.
Yeah.
I mean, just imagine like this young scientist, coming from India to Berkeley in the 1950s.
Yeah.
Like, talk about a trailblazer.
Right.
And, that ambition, that drive to kind of like push boundaries,
Yeah.
that was definitely instilled in Kamala.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just like setting an example. It sounds like Shyamala actively shaped Kamala's experience too.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, how so?
Well, Shyamala, she made this conscious choice to raise Kamala and her sister within the Black community
Interesting.
in Oakland.
Okay.
They attended a Black church,
Oh, wow.
and they went to this cultural center called the Rainbow Sign.
I've never even heard of that.
Oh, it's amazing.
What is that?
It's like this place where they, had exposure to all these Black artists and activists and thinkers.
All right.
They even had, people like Shirley Chisholm come and speak there.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, it was really this vibrant hub for Black culture and politics.
So she really wanted to make sure they had that strong sense of Black identity.
Yeah, it was a very deliberate choice,
Wow.
and it makes you think, like, how did all of that, her mom's journey,
Yeah.
this immersion in Black culture, like,
Yeah.
how did that shape her career choices?
Right, because she became a prosecutor.
Right.
But it sounds like not just any prosecutor.
No, not at all.
Like, what was different about her approach?
Well, one of the things that really comes through in all the sources is how much she was influenced by these giants of the civil rights movement,
Oh, interesting.
like Thurgood Marshall,
Oh,
right. Charles Hamilton Houston, Constance Baker Motley. These were people who used the law to fight for equality.
Right. Well,
And that's what she set out to do as well.
huh. So she started in Alameda County
Right.
and then became San Francisco's district attorney.
Exactly.
But that's a position that's gotten her both praise and criticism.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Right.
Especially her approach to certain types of crime.
Right, like prosecuting parents for truancy.
Yeah, that one's been particularly controversial.
It has. In fact, one of the sources, Charlie Spearing's book, Amateur Hour,
Oh, yeah.
really criticizes that approach.
Right.
But I think to really understand it,
Yeah.
we have to go to Kamala's own words.
I agree. We need to hear her perspective.
Right. Because she wrote about this in her book, Smart on Crime.
Yeah, she did.
And she argued that, being tough on crime, especially violent crime, that's about ensuring community safety.
Especially for vulnerable communities.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
But it wasn't just about punishment.
No.
She talked a lot about focusing on the underlying causes.
Yes.
Like addiction and lack of education.
Right. Trying to break that cycle of reoffending.
Right.
And she even created a program called Back on Track
Yeah.
to help people get back on their feet.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it was this kind of multi-pronged approach.
And it's still a complex legacy.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. There are definitely people who disagree with her methods.
Right.
And that's something that follows her as she moves on to become California's Attorney General.
Yeah.
And that's when she really starts to step onto the national stage,
Yeah.
dealing with things like Prop 8
Right.
and the mortgage crisis.
Oh, yeah. And speaking of that mortgage crisis,
Yeah.
one of the sources really highlighted how she went head to head with the big banks.
Oh, yeah. She didn't back down at all.
She didn't.
She even pushed back against the Obama administration to try and get a better deal for California homeowners.
Wow.
It was really impressive.
So it sounds like it shows her tenacity,
Definitely.
but also her ability to kind of forge alliances and then break with the establishment when necessary.
Exactly. She's not afraid to stand up for what she believes in.
Okay, so we've gone from Shyamala's influence
Right.
to Kamala's rise as a prosecutor and then attorney general.
Mm-hmm.
There's already so much to unpack.
I know, right? And we're just getting started.
And we're just getting started. But before we move on, if you're finding this deep dive into Kamala Harris as fascinating as I am,
Yeah.
hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this episode with your friends.
Yeah, spread the word.
You know, I love bringing you these in-depth looks at interesting people, and your support makes it possible.
It really does.
Okay, so back to Kamala. Where do we go from here?
Well, from California Attorney General, she sets her sights on the U.S. Senate.
Oh, so she's going national.
Yeah, this is where she really steps into that national spotlight.
All right, we'll have to hear all about that in part 2.
Yes, definitely. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
Welcome back to our deep dive on Kamala Harris.
Okay, so last time we left off with Kamala Harris's presidential campaign coming to an end.
Yeah, it was a tough race.
A lot of ups and downs.
But her story doesn't end there.
It doesn't.
Right.
It definitely doesn't.
In fact, you could argue that it actually positioned her for an even more pivotal role.
Okay, so how does she end up as vice president?
Well, I think to really understand that, we need to look at her relationship with Joe Biden.
Okay, because it wasn't always smooth sailing between them.
Right. Especially during those primary debates.
I remember those tense moments
Oh, yeah.
when she challenged him on his record on busing.
Yeah, that was a really pivotal moment.
It was.
It shows like how complex their dynamic was.
Yeah.
They had these shared values, this
Right.
commitment to social justice, but their approaches were so different, shaped by their different backgrounds and their
Yeah.
experiences.
Right.
And sometimes those approaches clashed.
One of the sources, Chidanan Rajgada's book, Kamala Harris, phenomenal woman,
Yeah.
actually takes us back to an earlier point in their relationship
Oh, interesting.
during the negotiations for the mortgage crisis settlement.
Oh, right.
So this is when Biden was vice president
Mm-hmm.
and Harris was California's attorney general.
Got it.
And it's interesting to see them working together because they're both pushing for a better deal for homeowners.
Yeah, they were both really committed to helping those who had been impacted by the crisis.
Yeah, and they even challenged people within the Obama administration.
Right. They weren't afraid to push back against their own party.
So they had this history of collaboration.
Yeah.
But obviously the primary put a strain on their relationship.
It did.
So what changed? How did they go from rivals to running mates?
Well, I think Biden ultimately recognized her strengths,
Yeah.
her ability to connect with voters,
Mm-hmm.
her sharp intellect, her experience, all of that.
And of course, we can't overlook the historical significance of her selection.
No, absolutely not.
Right. The first black woman.
Right.
First person of South Asian descent on a major party ticket.
It was huge.
It was
A
huge.
real watershed moment.
It really was.
I mean, it reflected the changing demographics of America, the growing influence of women and
Yeah.
people of color in politics. And that resonated with so many people.
For sure.
Yeah.
It really did.
Yeah, it felt like a turning point.
It did. But the campaign wasn't easy.
No, it wasn't.
I mean, she still faced a lot of those attacks that we talked about before, right?
Yeah. Unfortunately.
From both sides of the aisle.
Yeah. So, some people questioned her prosecutorial record.
Right.
Others criticized her for not being progressive enough.
And then there was Trump and his allies using those really racist and sexist tropes.
Oh, yeah. They went after her hard.
It was awful.
Trying to paint her as too ambitious,
Right.
not black enough.
Ugh. It's just so frustrating that those tactics are still used.
Yeah, it shows how much work we still have to do
Right.
to dismantle those harmful stereotypes.
It's infuriating, but she didn't let those attacks define her.
No, she really stayed focused
Right.
on the issues.
On her vision
Yeah.
for the country.
Her speeches were all about hope.
Yeah.
The importance of fighting for a more just and equitable society. And those themes, they resonated with a lot of voters.
They did.
Yeah.
And of course, it all led to that historic night,
Right.
the Biden-Harris victory.
A new chapter was beginning.
Exactly.
But with any new administration,
Mm.
there were challenges.
There were.
I mean, Biden entrusted her with some big tasks right away.
Like addressing the root causes of migration
That was a huge one.
to Central America.
And it was so complex and sensitive.
And then, of course, there was the ongoing pandemic.
Oh, yeah.
A divided Congress.
No shortage of obstacles.
No.
It was tough.
And then on top of all that, there was all this scrutiny of her performance.
Yeah, she was constantly under the microscope.
Yep.
People questioned her effectiveness.
Yeah.
Felt like she wasn't assertive enough.
Or criticized her for not pushing the administration's agenda further.
It was like she couldn't win.
Yeah.
No matter what she did, there was always going to be someone who disagreed with her.
But she kept her head down and focused on the work.
Yeah, she did. She worked on things like voting rights,
Mm.
maternal health,
Yeah.
supporting small businesses.
And she also became a prominent figure on the global stage,
Oh, absolutely.
representing the U.S. at international summits,
Yeah.
advocating for democracy and human rights.
It was powerful to see.
It was.
And again, we have to acknowledge the historical significance.
Yeah.
The first woman,
Right.
the first person of color to hold the office of vice president.
It's huge.
Yeah, she was breaking barriers while also dealing with all of these really complex issues.
But even with all those accomplishments,
Yeah.
there was still people who doubted her,
Right.
questioned her readiness for the presidency.
Yeah, there were whispers about potential replacements on the 2024 ticket.
It felt like the pressure just never let up.
It's a stark reminder of the double standards
Yeah.
that women and people of color in positions of power often face.
Right.
Every move is dissected and analyzed,
Yeah.
often held to a completely different standard.
Ugh, it's exhausting to even think about.
It is.
But she just kept going.
Yeah.
Didn't get caught up in the drama.
No.
Didn't let the negativity win.
Her commitment to the work, to
Yeah.
the people she serves,
Yeah.
it never wavered.
She really used her platform to amplify those voices that are so often marginalized.
Absolutely.
Those people who are often unheard.
Yeah.
And she always emphasized the importance of empathy and compassion in leadership.
She really does embody this idea of perseverance,
Right.
pushing boundaries,
Mm-hmm.
staying true to your values, even in the face of immense pressure.
It's really inspiring.
It is.
So what stands out to you?
About how she's navigated these challenges.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that strikes me is that she doesn't shy away from the tough stuff. Whether it's her record as a prosecutor
Right.
or the nuances of immigration policy.
Yeah.
She's willing to engage in those difficult conversations
Yeah.
to grapple with the hard questions.
Not about easy answers
Right.
or simplistic solutions.
It's about facing those hard truths head on,
And that's what makes her leadership so compelling.
even when it's messy
Yeah.
or imperfect.
It's real.
It's real.
And I think that's what people connect with. It's that authenticity.
I think she embodies this idea that progress isn't always linear.
Right.
It requires us to be uncomfortable,
Yeah.
to challenge our own assumptions,
Yeah.
and to keep pushing forward even when it's tough.
Okay, so we've gone from the campaign trail to the vice president's office.
What a ride.
Quite a journey.
It has been.
But before we move on to Kamala's future,
Yeah.
I want to remind you, if you're loving this deep dive,
Yes.
hit that like button, subscribe to the channel,
Yeah, help us out.
and share this episode with your friends.
Yeah, spread the word.
I love bringing you these in-depth looks at interesting people,
Me too.
and your support makes it all possible.
It does.
Okay, so are you ready to explore what the future holds for Kamala Harris? All right, let's do it. Welcome back to the Allison Knows podcast and the final part of our deep dive into Kamala Harris. We've seen her journey from Oakland to the vice presidency. Now the big question, what's next for her?
It's the question on everyone's mind, especially with the 2024 election coming up. Biden's age is a factor, and it just adds another layer of complexity to everything.
Yeah, it does. So there's a lot of speculation about what Kamala Harris will do.
Right. Will she run? Won't she run?
Exactly. One source, Charlie Spearing's Amateur Hour,
Yeah,
he really dives right into all of this.
he does. And he's not super optimistic about her chances.
No, he's not.
He talks about this idea of the California curse.
What's that?
It's this idea that no California Democrat has ever won the presidential nomination.
Oh, wow. I never thought about that.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? And he also points to, all the attacks on her record from both sides.
Yeah. She gets it from both sides.
She does. And I think that's definitely had an impact on her public image.
Yeah, for sure. And even within the Democratic Party, there are all these different opinions about whether she'd be a good candidate.
Right.
I mean, some people point to her poll numbers.
Right. They're not great.
They're not. And they question whether she can really connect with voters on a national level.
And then there are those concerns about her time as a prosecutor.
Right, that keeps coming up.
It does.
But, I have to say,
yeah,
political landscapes, they change constantly.
they do. Things can change so quickly.
I mean, we've seen candidates who were underestimated early on,
Mm-hmm.
and then they end up surging ahead.
It happens all the time.
So I don't think we can count anyone out just yet.
I agree. It's way too early for that.
It's way too early. And honestly, I think Kamala Harris has a lot going for her.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I mean, she's a strong communicator.
Mm-hmm.
She's passionate about the issues she cares about.
But she is.
And she knows how to get things done.
Right. And she's a coalition builder.
She is.
She brings people together.
Plus, she's already made history.
Yeah, she has.
The first woman.
And the first person of color.
To be vice president.
It's huge.
It's a big deal.
And it could definitely work in her favor.
Yeah, I think so too. And,
Yeah.
when I look back at all these sources,
Mm-hmm.
there's this theme that keeps coming up.
What's that?
Kamala Harris, defying expectations.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Proving people wrong.
She's done that time and time again.
Achieving things that other people thought were impossible.
Like her whole life has been about breaking barriers.
It's really remarkable.
It is.
It really shows her determination
Yeah.
and her belief in herself.
I think that's one of the things that's so inspiring about her.
It is. And who knows what the future holds.
Right. I mean, maybe she'll run for president again.
Yeah.
Maybe she'll do something completely different.
Maybe she'll write a cookbook.
Ooh, I'd buy that.
Me too.
But whatever she does,
Yeah.
I have a feeling it's going to be interesting.
Oh, definitely. I can't wait to see what she does next.
So what stands out to you as we kind of wrap up this deep dive? You know, for me, it's the possibilities.
Yeah.
I think regardless of what she does next,
Mm-hmm.
her being on the national stage has opened up so many doors.
For other people.
For other women.
Yeah.
For people of color.
It's that representation.
Right. It shows people what's possible.
It does.
It inspires them to dream big.
And it's not just symbolic.
Right.
I mean, she's actually making a difference in people's lives.
Oh, absolutely.
With the policies she's championing.
Yeah, she's not afraid to tackle those tough issues.
Like criminal justice reform.
Yeah.
Climate change.
Economic inequality.
She's really pushing for change.
She is.
And that's what I find so inspiring about her.
Yeah, it's not just talk, it's action.
Exactly. So as we think about her legacy,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's still being written,
Right. It is.
but she's already accomplished so much.
She's shifted the conversation,
Yeah.
broken down barriers,
Mm-hmm.
and inspired a whole generation.
It's been an amazing journey,
It has been.
exploring her life and career
From Oakland to the White House.
and all the twists and turns in between.
Yeah.
It's a really incredible story.
It is.
And it's a story about perseverance,
Mm-hmm.
about representation,
Yeah.
and about the possibility of creating a more just and equitable world.
It gives me hope for the future.
Me too.
So what are some of the key takeaways that you'll be reflecting on as you think about Kamala Harris's future?
Well, I think for me, it's that reminder to never underestimate resilience.
Mm.
She faced so many challenges,
Yeah, she did.
so many attacks,
But she never gave up.
never gave up.
Yeah.
And she also never let those attacks change who she was.
Yeah, she stayed true to herself
Exactly.
and to her values.
I think that's a powerful message for all of us,
It is.
no matter what we're
no
doing.
matter what obstacles we face.
Kamala Harris shows us that change is possible.
Yeah.
It just takes time,
And effort.
and that we all have a role to play in making the world a better place.
It's a really powerful message.
It is. So before we wrap up, if you enjoyed this deep dive into Kamala Harris, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this episode with your friends. Your support means the world to me.
It's been a pleasure exploring these sources with you. We hope this deep dive has provided you with new insights and perspectives on Kamala Harris, her journey, and the impact she's had on American politics.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening.
Follow Allison on Blue Sky, like, subscribe, and share your comments to Allison Knows on YouTube.